Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Ready for a deep dive into some serious innovation?
I know I am.
Well, today we're tackling TRIZ.
Oh, I love TRIZ.
It's a problem-solving method that really shakes things up when it comes to creativity.
Yeah, it really does.
And to guide us, we're using a website all about liberating structures.
Okay.
Now, think of liberating structures as like a toolkit,
Got it.
full of techniques to make teamwork, well, work better.
So like recipes for better collaboration.
Yeah, exactly. And TRIZ is one of those recipes.
I like that analogy. And you know what's so cool about TRIZ?
What's that?
It uses this idea of creative destruction.
Okay, now hold on.
It's kind of counterintuitive, right?
It sounds a bit intense.
Yeah, to make room for new ideas, you got to first figure out what's holding you back and get rid of it.
So are we talking like actually destroying things?
Not literally, no.
Okay, good.
It's more about getting rid of those habits,
Uh-huh.
the processes, even mindsets that are like blocking us,
Blocking us from what?
reaching our full potential. Give me an example.
Like never-ending meetings.
Oh, yeah, those are the worst.
They suck the energy out of everyone,
Totally.
and they achieve absolutely nothing.
So true.
TRZ can help us pinpoint those energy-draining activities
Okay.
and stop them for good.
So then we have the time and space for actual innovation.
Exactly.
Instead of adding more to our plates, which are already overflowing, TRZ helps us clear the clutter,
That's a great way to put it.
making room for something new.
Love it.
But isn't it hard to get people to focus on the negative?
I see what you mean.
It seems, well, a bit negative.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It might seem counterintuitive, but there's a method to the madness, I promise.
Okay, lay it on me.
By focusing on what we don't want, we actually force ourselves to face those hidden assumptions
Oh, I see.
and those roadblocks we might not even realize are there.
Like shining a light on those sneaky gremlins.
Yes, the ones sabotaging our efforts.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm intrigued.
Good.
So walk me through how this works. What are the actual steps involved in this TRIZ process?
It's pretty straightforward, which is part of its beauty.
I like simple.
First, you got to pinpoint an undesirable outcome,
Oh,
something you absolutely do not want to happen.
got it.
Say you're launching a new product.
Right.
Instead of thinking about how to make it successful, you ask, how can we guarantee this launch is a total flop?
Whoa, that's bold.
All right.
But I can see how that would get people thinking differently.
It shakes things up a bit.
Okay, so what's next?
Then you brainstorm all the actions that would guarantee this negative outcome.
So like, okay, if we really wanted to mess this up, what would we do?
Exactly. And this is where things get interesting.
How so?
It often leads to some, well, uncomfortable but insightful realizations.
You're basically reverse engineering failure.
You got it. And then comes the really revealing part.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
You got to compare those actions that would lead to failure with what you're currently doing.
So it's like holding up a mirror, saying, wait a minute, are we already doing things that are setting us up for disaster?
You see?
I can almost hear the aha moments.
Right. But, and this is important,
Okay.
how do we prevent the whole thing from becoming a downer?
Right, because focusing on failure all the time can be demotivating.
Exactly. But that's where the serious fun part of TRIZ comes in.
All right, I'm listening.
You got to approach this whole thing with a sense of playfulness and curiosity.
Oh, I like that.
It's about making a safe space where people can challenge those sacred cows.
And laugh a little along the way.
Oh, absolutely. Laughter is key.
So it's like turning a potentially negative situation into a fun team-building exercise.
That's the idea. So you've identified the counterproductive activities. What's next?
What do we do?
The final step is to come up with actions to stop those activities.
So the focus is on eliminating, not adding.
Exactly. It's about clearing the path.
Not adding more obstacles.
And that's where it gets really practical.
Okay,
You're not just brainstorming anymore. You're making decisions about what you're going to change.
I like it. So it's about taking action.
Absolutely.
It's not enough to just, identify what's not working.
Right.
We actually have to, commit to stopping those behaviors.
Right.
And that's where the real challenge is, isn't it?
It is. And the source material really emphasizes that.
Okay.
They talk about involving the right people,
Uh-huh.
the people who can actually make those changes.
Like the decision makers.
Exactly. It's pointless to identify roadblocks if you can't remove them.
So true. We don't want a big list of things to stop doing and then realize, oh, we can't actually change any of this.
You need the authority
You have the power
to make it happen.
So let's talk about the benefits of using TRZ.
Yep.
You mentioned earlier that it can help with things like fostering open communication and unlocking creativity.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Sure. Think of it this way.
Okay.
When you use TREZ, you're basically creating a safe space for people to, challenge the way things are.
Yeah.
And voice those uncomfortable truths that often go unspoken.
So you're not just identifying problems, you're creating a culture where it's safe to talk about them.
Exactly. And that's huge for any team.
For any organization, really.
For sure.
But, some people might say that this process is demotivating.
Interesting.
What would you say to that?
I'd say it's all about how you frame it.
Okay.
Remember, the website calls TRZ seriously fun.
Yeah.
It's not about dwelling on negativity.
Okay.
It's about approaching tough challenges with a playful, curious mindset.
I get it. So when you can laugh at yourself and your mistakes, it makes failure a little less scary.
It becomes a learning opportunity.
Yeah. This reminds me of a time when our team was trying to launch a new product.
Okay.
And we were so focused on everything we wanted to do that we missed some pretty obvious roadblocks.
We've all been there.
Oh, yeah. And if we'd used TRZ back then, I bet we could have avoided some major headaches.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new ideas.
Totally.
And forget to look at what might hold us back.
So TRZ helps us pause, take a critical look.
It does.
Even if it means facing some uncomfortable truths.
Sometimes those are the most important ones to face.
Okay, let's look at some real-world examples.
All right.
How has TRIZ been used effectively?
The website has a few different scenarios.
Okay, like what?
One that stood out was in healthcare.
Okay, healthcare.
They used TRIZ to brainstorm ways to reduce medical errors.
Oh, wow, that's a big one.
Right. Super important.
So how do they apply TRIZ to something so complex?
They started with a provocative question.
What was it?
How can we make sure we always operate on the wrong side?
Wow, that's intense.
It gets your attention, right?
It definitely does.
It forced them to think about potential weaknesses.
In a way that maybe other methods wouldn't.
Exactly. And by looking at their practices through that lens, they were able to see where they might be increasing the risk of errors.
Oh, wow. Uncovering hidden dangers.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
What other examples were there?
There was another interesting one with leadership development.
Okay.
They used TRIZ to help leaders become more inclusive.
Interesting. How did that work?
Instead of focusing on what inclusive leadership should look like, they flipped the script.
All right.
They asked, how can we make policies that only work for a select few?
So they reverse engineered exclusion.
Yes. And by examining their behaviors through that lens, they were able to see unintentional biases.
And practices that excluded people.
Things they might not have noticed otherwise.
So TRIZ can challenge those ingrained patterns.
It can.
Yeah.
And those behaviors that can lead to inequality.
It's a reminder that sometimes the best solutions come from questioning how things have always been done.
And looking from a different angle.
The website also had an example from IT, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Something we can all relate to.
Right. They asked, how can we make sure no one wants to use our IT system?
It's funny because it's true.
Sometimes it feels like they're designed that way on purpose.
I know. But I get the point. By aiming for the worst outcome, you have to confront those uncomfortable truths.
About your systems, your practices.
And that's where the real breakthroughs happen.
When you acknowledge the weaknesses.
You can start to create something truly innovative.
That's the goal.
Okay, so we've seen how TRZ works in different fields.
From healthcare to leadership to IT.
Now let's dive into the tips and traps section.
The website gives some great advice.
Okay, what are some of the tips?
Well, the first one they really stress is focus on stopping activities, not starting new ones.
Right, don't jump into solution mode too quickly.
Exactly. The power of TRZ is in letting go of what's not working.
So resist that urge to brainstorm new ideas right away.
It's like decluttering before you decorate.
Get rid of the old stuff to make space for the new.
Perfect analogy. You need to create that space.
Mental and emotional space for innovation.
That's it.
Okay, what's the next tip?
They talk about choosing a truly undesirable outcome.
Right, make the exercise impactful.
It has to grab the team's attention.
So the more uncomfortable, the better.
Not necessarily. It's about choosing an outcome
Okay.
that's relevant to the team's goals.
And challenges.
The more specific and tangible, the better.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Imagine you're working on customer service.
Okay.
Asking, how can we ensure customers never come back, is much more powerful.
Then just asking how to make it a little bit better.
Exactly. It forces you to confront those deal breakers.
And the second question is just too vague.
And safe.
So you want to create that sense of urgency.
Get people thinking critically about those points of failure.
Okay, what other tips do they have? This is great stuff.
Right.
Picking a strong question really sets the stage
For sure.
for a productive TRE session.
Absolutely.
So what else should we keep in mind?
Well, the final tip they highlight is involving the right people.
Okay, right. The people who can actually take action.
Yeah, the ones who can actually stop those activities we identify.
Because it's pointless to go through this whole exercise if you can't make any changes.
Exactly. Imagine a team brainstorming like crazy.
Uh-huh.
They have all these ideas to improve something.
Okay.
But their manager, the one who can actually implement those changes, isn't even there.
Oh, that would be so frustrating.
Right. It's like having a brilliant invention.
Yeah.
But you don't have the tools to actually build it.
You need the resources, the skills.
Exactly.
So having the right team is crucial.
It is. They need to know the issue.
And be able to make decisions.
They got to be able to turn those aha moments into action.
I love it. This has been so insightful.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad.
I feel like I have a whole new set of tools to tackle those, those stubborn problems that have been holding me back.
That's what TRZ is all about.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into TRZ,
okay,
what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
I'd say TRZ is a powerful tool.
But it's simple, too.
Yes, surprisingly simple.
And it's all about driving innovation through, what was it?
Creative destruction.
Right. Letting go of what's not working to make space for new things.
It's like decluttering, but for innovation.
I like that. We focus so much on adding more
ideas, more features.
Complexity.
Right. And we forget to step back and ask,
what can we get rid of?
To make things better.
Exactly. TRZ isn't just about solutions.
No, it's about shifting your mindset.
Creating a culture of continuous improvement.
That's a great way to put it.
And you know what? The website leaves us with a great question.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
Think about an area in your life or your work where you feel stuck.
We've all been there.
What would happen if you used TRZ?
To shake things up a bit.
What do you need to stop doing?
To unlock that creative potential.
That's a great question to end on.
I think so, too.
Sometimes the most innovative solutions come from stopping what's not working.
Simple as that.
So go out there, embrace TRZ.
And see what amazing things you can create.
Happy innovating, everyone.
Happy innovating. See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.